Welcome to Channel A TV. My name is David Shiro, live here in Seattle, Washington. Today is a great day that the Lord has made, and we are so excited, not just because we have the opportunity to speak, but we have the opportunity to present things on a high level. This is a broadcast brought together by the African Diaspora Foundation in collaboration with Channel A TV. So we are so excited, and today we get an opportunity to speak to our candidates for the African presidential, candidates in Africa. So how often do you get that momentum and that platform where you can speak to folks that are representing different countries? So this is the first time we believe that folks will get a chance to listen to folks who are running for presidents in different countries. And this is, we have to start with a disclaimer. So we are not supporting any candidate or endorsing any candidate, but we're simply creating the platform where we can give ourselves a chance to listen to them directly. As folks in the diaspora, we don't have that opportunity to hear from folks that are running for president. So this is the first time. So if you can hear me, I'm pumped, I'm excited because it's a great opportunity. So before we get started, I want to bring in our brother here, Dr. Francis, who is all the way in California. Brother Francis, I know you're excited just as I am. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, very well, very well. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. I like your house.
Thank you.
Let's not talk about it, right? So we're not trying to send people to your house. But seriously, what does this day mean to you?
Well, it's a great opportunity. Like you said, it's not often that you have the privilege to speak across different about different nations, people running for office. So today it's a pleasure to know that we have folks from South Africa, Nigeria, and Liberia. That's quite a bit there. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so this is the first of its kind. As you can see down there, there's a disclaimer that's flowing. It says Channel ATV or the African Diaspora Foundation is not endorsing any candidate, but we're simply providing a platform to where we can continue to hear. So folks, if you're running for presidents in your own country, don't feel like we are selecting particular countries, but we're just simply going to places where folks are giving us the opportunity to speak to them. So if you are listening and you're watching, please feel free to join us and support and listen to these men and women who are going to lead us in future. So Dr. Francis, let's start with Liberia first of all. What are your thoughts about Liberia? What do you think? Just give us a little bit of a synopsis of what do you want to ask the gentleman who's running for presidency in Liberia? Like, what are expectations?
Oh, well, okay, thank you. I have three broad areas that I want to speak about. So based on the candidates,
right,
I'll be glad to present them. Now, they include the African diaspora.
Very important.
The next one, economic plan.
Okay.
And the third one, traveling in Africa.
Absolutely, absolutely. As we know, Africa is so difficult sometimes just to travel from one country to the next. I remember one time a few years ago, many years ago actually, I was traveling from Malawi going to Mozambique, and I could not fly from Malawi directly to Mozambique. I had to fly first to South Africa, then go into Mozambique due to all these issues that we are excited to hear from the candidates today. So I'm glad you touched on the economy, because that's a big one, you know. And the diaspora as well. As we know, the diaspora has to be involved, you know, because we're also contributing to the growth of the economies in Africa.
That is correct.
Absolutely. Any last words before we go on? I know that you're excited just as I am, and we've been looking forward to this day for a while now. So any last words from you, sir?
Certainly. You know, so I just say, hey, good luck. Tell us about your country, your passion. Let us know why you think you're the best candidate for this job.
Absolutely. And as you know, those of you that are watching us, joining us from all over the world, we welcome you into the broadcast. If you're joining us just now, we're having a conversation, prepping and excited to listen to some of the folks that are running for presidency in Africa. So we go where the Spirit leads us. And Sister Sylvia, if I can bring you into the broadcast here real quickly. Sister Sylvia, you know, how are you? And good to see you.
Thank you. I'm doing very well, Davis. It's always a pleasure seeing you. And hey, Dr. Arrow, I see you over there.
How are you?
Wonderful, thank you.
Good to hear from you, my sister.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Sister Sylvia, I know that you're very passionate about women being involved into the affairs of leadership and things like that, you know, and rightfully so. You know, what are expectations from some of these candidates who are showing up today, you know, giving us their manifesto?
Oh my goodness, you know, it was disappointing. We did have a female candidate that was supposed to be part of this program. And I was so excited when I saw her, because that's pretty much a rarity these days, even though in other parts of the world, we do have quite a few females out there that are ruling countries and, you know, doing very well. So my expectations from these candidates today are very high, because we have a lot of questions that we'd like to ask them based upon the way our, let me call them their predecessors for now. I know they're still in office, what they have done or not done for our country. So we want to know what is going to be different about them when they get into the office, because there's a saying that says, if you can't beat them, what do? You join them, right?
You join them. Right.
Are they coming in with a brand new leaf and saying, listen, enough of the fossilized life that we started before, and since the 1800s, this is millennial time. This is millennial time. So I want to hear from them. What is it that they're going to do, especially for our youth and our women? Most of you, if you look at today's life, we see how dynamic these children are, you know, that are from the millennial time. The baby boomers, we're going downhill now. We are going downhill. So we need to prepare our future leaders for tomorrow. So the candidates that are on here today, I hope they'll brace themselves. Some of the questions may be offending or may be personal, but hey, as a presidential candidate, we have to have thick skin. So by God's grace, this being the first ever of its kind that we're doing today, to give this platform to any, and like David said in the beginning, we don't pick and choose. We let you call us. If you want to be part of this platform, we will display some numbers for you to use if you want to be part of this platform. It's a series. It's just not a one-time deal. We're going to be doing this as often as we get candidates. And my sisters out there, I'm calling upon you, those of you who have that itch to become presidents or leaders of your country. Get out from that little rock. Have that confidence. Come back up and let us support you. Let us put you on the screen so you can tell us who you are, what you are. And as a mother, I'm sure you female leaders are going to do a fantastic job. What a man can do, I think we can do better. What do you say, my sisters? Let me see you on the screen.
Amen. Very well said. And I should have known by the time I started that the Spirit will take over and you take us where we need to be.
I told the Spirit to stay on the side today.
Oh boy.
No, we appreciate you. We appreciate you. And I'm sure the candidates are ready for you. And hopefully they'll give us all these answers, you know, as we ask them questions. Quickly, I just want to introduce them to you real quickly. So we have, you know, His Excellency, Mr. Victor OKHAI from Nigeria. He's going to be hopefully running for the seat in Nigeria. As you can see there, he looks ready. He looks like a president, definitely. And if we can go down to the great, country of Liberia, you can meet Ambassador Nathaniel Burns there. He's a gentleman. You've seen him working here in the diaspora for many, many years as well. So we're excited to hear from him. And then last but not the least for this series, we go to South Africa, the great country of South Africa. As you can see, His Excellency, Mr. Hendrick Peter KEKANA. It's a little bit of a, handful for you to say it, but we can all learn at the end of the day how to pronounce his name correctly. He'll tell us a little bit about his tribe. He's very proud about his heritage, and I'm sure he will share a little bit about that. So there you have it. So, folks, if you're joining us right now, this is a conversation with presidential candidates all across Africa, and this is a series brought together by Channel ATV in collaboration with the Africa Diaspora Foundation. So we are so excited. Sister Sylvia, any last words before we transition on to the live part of it?
Oh, absolutely, yes. For those of you who are watching us today live, it's a pleasure to see you as always. We love coming to your screen. We love interacting and being with you. We will be entertaining questions from the audience. So if any of you are watching us right now, if you can get through to us, we will display some phone numbers and some, I believe we have email, right, Davis, where we can share?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
So that if you can't reach us, because I know once this program starts, it becomes quite hectic where traffic is so heavy. I mean, representing 3 beautiful countries, Liberia, Nigeria, and South Africa. I mean, what else can we do? We've started with the big guns. I mean, Nigeria and South Africa, come on now. So those of you who are watching us, and if you're interested in being a part of this program again, we are going to display phone numbers for you to call us so that when the second series airs, you'll be able to be a part of this. So today, I'm saying, God be with you, and ask him to go before you, and I'm sure we'll do very well.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining us right now, it's a great conversation. And Dr. Francis, thank you for being here as always. We appreciate you. Any last words from you as well, sir, quickly?
Oh, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. So I'm ready to go. Let's get our candidates. And I have 3 questions.
Absolutely. I'm looking for them to answer some questions as well, because as we know, we're still going through the pandemic, even though some countries they've said that we're out of the pandemic, but the effects are very, very visible, from the economy to anything you can imagine. The pandemic touched that part of the house. So also I'm looking forward to, what these folks are going to do for the future, for the youths and women, like Sister Sylvia said. So I'm really excited about that. And we cannot forget about the sports, because sometimes we forget about things that keep us afloat, right? Sports, they're part of politics as well. How are you going to keep the country united, using all these different aspects. So we are so excited. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is David Shira. Very, very excited to be here and very blessed to be here. I'm looking forward to bringing the first candidate all the way from Liberia, Ambassador Burns. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We are having a great conversation with our candidates, and I'm so excited to introduce to you the first presidential candidate from the great country of Liberia. He's joining us live right here. Ambassador Nathaniel Burns, welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, David.
It's good to see you, and hope that you're doing great. And I know you stayed up a little bit late to make sure that you are part of this conversation. So we are so excited, and thank you for joining us right now. Tell us, how do you feel?
I feel wonderful. I always say when folks ask me how I'm doing, I'm blessed and favored, highly favored.
Highly favored.
I'm really, really happy and honored to be here. I'm happy to engage folks from all across the continent and across the diaspora here in the U.S. So I'm very, very happy to be here.
Yes, sir. So personally, I just want to say it's a good thing to see one of us from the diaspora who's stepping up to the plate to make sure that you run for the highest office of the country in the country of Liberia. So that's great. And we're so excited. Well, before we get started, we have a packed program. We have folks that are ready to ask you questions. But for now, right now, we did our research. So we dug up a little bit of a video of where you're introducing yourself. So if you don't mind, we're going to take a few minutes to make sure that we watch the video so that we can learn a little bit about your background and, your family structure and all that stuff. So I think it's important for the folks to get to know a little bit about your background. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break. Please watch the video featuring Ambassador Nathaniel Burns from Liberia as he runs for the presidency there in Liberia. Again, this presentation is brought to you by the African Diaspora Foundation in collaboration with Channel A TV. So here we go. Please take your time and watch this. We'll be right back.
My name is Nathaniel Burns. My friends call me Nat. I was born and raised in Liberia. As a matter of fact, I was born in Monrovia and spent a part of my childhood in Harper City, Maryland County. I come from a long legacy of public servants. My father, Roland Barnes, served, as a matter of fact, over his career in all three branches of the government of Liberia. He was a Supreme Court Associate Justice, he was Deputy Minister of Justice, and he also served as a member of the House of Representatives at some point in time in his career. My mother was a teacher in the Liberian public school system, and her mother before her was a teacher, and her mother before her was a teacher. So throughout my life, throughout my family, we have made efforts to serve Liberia. I served Liberia initially as an analyst at the Ministry of Finance. Then I was asked to serve as Director General, National Social Security and Welfare Corporation. Thereafter, I served as Minister of Finance. Then I served as Ambassador and Permanent Rep to the United Nations for Liberia. I served concurrently as Ambassador to Cuba. And thereafter, I served as Ambassador to the United States of America. In all of these positions, I served with distinction and left an enviable track record. So I serve. I consider myself a servant. I'm married to a wonderful woman called Dr. Dawn Cooper Barnes. We have 6 children and 3 lovely grandchildren. So Liberia, very well endowed in natural resources and human resources, yet considered among the poorest countries on the globe. Why? That should not be the case. I think the fundamental problem we have in Liberia right now that has brought us to where we are is corruption. It's long history of corruption. If we are not careful, and we are moving very quickly to that point, where corruption is going to be the death of Liberia.
There you have it. So we joined by Ambassador Nathaniel Burns all the way from Liberia. I was just taking a far back, focusing on what he's talking about. So I'm very, very excited for this opportunity. So let me bring it back into the studio here real quickly. So now, Ambassador, that's a lot of information that we have to unpack, but unfortunately we only have so much time because we have to transition into different parts of the program. But not to rush you, real quickly before I even start going deep with you, I want to find out, you come from a long line of politicians. You've done public service, your folks have done public service. When did you believe that I am built to lead? Not to lead on a different level, but a highest level of leadership. So when did you know? What prompted you to actually think about running for presidency, if you will?
Well, I had literally run away from Liberia during the civil crisis, come to the U.S. and started to work in corporate America. And I worked in corporate America here in the U.S. for 16 years, and always had the itch to go back to Liberia.
Right.
Okay, because I realized that I could get just but so far in the American system. And there was a dire need for my own skills and qualities in Liberia. And so that tug had always been there. And one day I just got up and said to my wife, I'm going back.
And how was the response from your wife, by the way, before we proceed? How was the response?
The one good thing about my wife has been she's been incredibly supportive. She sees herself as an encourager of this humble servant. So it wasn't a difficult decision to make, and I was happy I got her support.
That's
but I went back to Liberia and I started to work in the public sector in the Ministry of Finance, and haven't turned my back then since. I intend to serve. I will serve. I will serve Liberia till I die.
Absolutely. Very well said. So we've seen the leadership of Liberia changing from one end of the spectrum to the next. Where do you intend to take the country? Which direction are you going to take it? Because we know that you have a lot of aspirations and a lot of ambitions, and some of them, we can say, and we were talking behind scenes that you broke down, you have all these things that you intend to do, so I'm curious to find out. Already you talked about healthcare, infrastructure, and all those things, but within the first 100 days of you becoming president, what are the things that you're going to do? What are your priorities within 100 days?
Basically, we're going to focus on the low-hanging fruit, and this low-hanging fruit is how we expend money. Okay, we are very, very keen on revenue, collecting revenue. It's always revenue, revenue, revenue. How do we expand our revenue base to pay for projects and services? But we never focus on how we can control cost. Okay, so
I like that.
We must understand that our revenue base is limited. We just have but a limited tax base. We need to focus on how we can cut costs. I mentioned in my intro about why are we buying $80,000 cars, for ministers of government. We need to find a way to cut costs, okay? And that's quick. That's a quick way to do it, because of cut costs. Why are members of the legislature, a typical teacher in Liberia, a typical teacher in the public school system makes an average of $150 a month, on average, $150 a month.
Wow.
The member of the House of Representatives or the Senate in Liberia, the legislature, makes 100 times that amount, an average of $15,000. What sense does that make? You have a teacher here, a legislator here in Liberia today, who brings more value? So we need to begin to, how can we address the issue of managing our costs and our expenses? How do we prioritize and incentivize the appropriate sectors of our society to grow? So those are the low-hanging fruits that we will attack right away. There are many people that are being overpaid, many people being underpaid. The discrepancies are just too many. They need to be fixed. So that's going to be our very first focus. The second thing is we must change our institutions. Institutions in Liberia are like revolving doors. You get a new minister or a new head of the institution, and the entire institution changes from the top to the elevator operator, and a whole new crew comes in there, okay? That stifles continuity, it stifles institutional memory, it stifles consistency. So we must build institutions that are not packed with politicians. We must build our institutions with technocrats, okay? So I'm saying, instead of having political appointees throughout the institution, the minister, the deputy minister, everything under the assistant minister and lower, let's get technocrats in there, people who know what they're doing, and they are there regardless of their political affiliation, their ethnicity, their gender, whatever. Can you deliver? Can you deliver? Can you do this to take Liberia to the next level? So those are the low-hanging fruits we're going to focus on right away. But over time, the bastard that we have to deal with in Liberia is corruption. We must stop corruption in its track, because we won't be able to do the education, healthcare, infrastructure issues when we cannot control corruption. When money is being stolen with impunity, we can't fix any of those things. So corruption is the #1 issue.
Very well said. I think that's a common, denominator of all African countries. Corruption is always in the mix, So if you become president, how then do you plan to deal with corruption itself? Would you dial back and actually deal with some of the folks that you believe have taken money, from the government or from even infrastructures that I shouldn't be mentioning right now? But would you deal with that as part of the low-hanging fruit, or would you just first move forward and then go back?
We will do the appropriate audits, and anyone in past governments where it can be clearly shown that they cheated, they stole, they will have to bear the consequences of those decisions they made then. We're going to create a system where we incent people better. That's why we need to narrow the size of our government. We incent people better, okay? And then we have reason to punish them when they cheat. Because many times the reason why they cheat, the rationale is, well, I'm so poorly paid, that I have to find a way to make, So we need to look at the entire system, break it apart. The way to rebuild Liberia, look, we are broken. My country is broken. There's only one good opportunity that one can see in the scenario as it is right now. Everything is broken. We now have the opportunity to build it up right from scratch. So my approach is going to be turning the paradigm on its ears, okay, and building it up right from the ground up. Is it going to be easy? Like I said, no, but we are prepared to take on the challenges.
Fair enough. Very well said, sir. Very well said. And obviously, you spent a lot of years in the diaspora yourself. One of the things that we experience when you leave, the diaspora, going back to the countries where we come from, you get a little bit of a backlash as a human being. So were you discouraged when you went back? What are some of the adversities that you have to go through in order for you to create a platform such as this, to where you can feel, you know what, I'm ready? And we know that sometimes the support is not there because folks feel like, hey, you left. You left us to struggle with all these things that you've mentioned. So how did you deal with it personally when you got back home? How did you get the crowd to be behind you one more time?
That's an excellent question. Before I address that, let me say something about the diaspora. Liberia has 15 administrative subdivisions. We call them counties. In Nigeria, They're called states. In the US, they're called states.
Correct.
Okay. I believe the diaspora, the Liberian diaspora, has two important characteristics. Number one, they represent Liberia's 16th county. Politically, they represent Liberia's 16th county. Economically, they represent Liberia's middle class. In Liberia, physically in Liberia, we have a tiny sliver of affluent or very wealthy people and a huge mass of very, very poor people. Our middle class is outside of Liberia. It's a diaspora, okay? And that diaspora is largely responsible for some of the progress Liberia has made over the last several years. Over the last 10 years, the 10-year average remittances to Liberia by the diaspora is $500 million, nearly as much as the Liberian government's budget, okay? So you cannot engage or talk about the future of Liberia without engaging and embracing the diaspora. Now, you are right. There does seem to be some friction for the diaspora that returns to Liberia. And I experienced that when I went. And the whole issue is, well, when things got rough, you left. Now things are settled down. There is peace. You're coming back and you're going to take our job from us, blah, blah, blah. What one has to do as a returnee is, number one, adjust your expectations, okay? Because you've been in an environment that is first world, high tech, problem solved easily, and you're going into an environment that's pretty backwards, okay? So all of a sudden now you begin to feel that, oh, I know the answers. I'm smart, I'm up there. So you have to sort of exercise a little bit of modesty and humility. Okay, those are two important qualities that one must address. And you go there with an open mind and open heart to try to get an appreciation and an understanding of some of the challenges that your brothers and sisters have faced over there. In the meantime, those Liberian nationals that are in Liberia need to understand these people are just as Liberian as you are. So you must more or less express some love and embrace them, because they are bringing value. By the same time, they need to understand that you also have value. The fact that you've been tenacious enough to stick with it and stay there says something about you. So there does need to be a coming together, okay, of a common finding, a common ground for those that are returning and those that stayed. Keeping in mind that at the end of the day, Liberia is what matters.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So that's a real life challenge for those of you that are planning to go back home and run for office. You heard it from the man himself. Now, as we transition on, I know we have folks that are willing and ready to ask you some further questions. So, but I wanted to make sure we test the waters a little bit here. So, last question for you from me. You know, do you believe that Africa needs one passport? And if so, why?
I believe Africa needs to be better united. Okay. Globalization has made the world a smaller place. Okay. And I believe that globalization is a double-edged sword. You can either be on the cutting edge of globalization, which many developed Western countries are, or you can be on the bleeding edge of globalization, like much of Africa is, where we suffer as a result of the expansion of the globalization, so to speak. We need to learn that globalization has empowered us in Africa with many, many things. One important thing is it's empowered us with information. The World Wide Web is an incredible source of knowledge and information, and we need to exploit that and exploit it well. Yes, we do need to get to a point where we are more united. We are traveling on one passport and able to move freely across borders like the rest of the world. Okay. Right. We need to learn to exploit the advantages of globalization. It's very, very important. And in doing so, it will enhance the individual African countries and Africa as a whole. For example, Liberia is a major exporter of iron ore. Do you know that there are 2 full steel plants, steel manufacturing facilities in Nigeria that are mothballed right now?
Absolutely.
Why can't we exploit South-South trading? What if we said, okay, we take our iron ore, send it down to those steel plants in Nigeria to process, we get added value, Nigeria benefits, Liberia benefits. But I'm saying all this to say that we need to agree that within our continent, okay, there's a lot of opportunities for synergies, and we need to exploit them. Traveling across the continent without being hassled by border restrictions and all that is absolutely key. I do agree that we need to have one passport, and we're making some progress. There's an ECOWAS passport, for example, that I travel on. I assume you travel on also. So, but we do need to have that where we can be able to move freely across the continent. We need to begin to perceive ourselves as opposed to Liberian, Nigerian, South African. We need to begin to see ourselves as Africanist, and to a further extent, begin to see ourselves as globalist. It's very, very important.
Absolutely. Very well said. I couldn't agree with you more on that one as well. So we're going to take a little turn and look at some of the questions which were asked based on what you've said. And here is a young lady from Europe who sent this question. So take a listen and then please answer the question as soon as she's done. So here we go. Stay tuned.
Hello, my name is Kristina Kovalevich. I am a publicist, writer, social media manager, TV personnel, and so much more. I want to congratulate every single candidate on their path to becoming a president of their country. As a president, you will be dealing with a lot of local and international affairs. So with that being said, as a native of Latvia, currently living in the United States, my question for you is, what are your thoughts on the Russian invasion on Ukraine? Thank you.
There you have it, sir. We cannot ignore the fact that we're going through a war right now in Ukraine. So, her being a native of that European part of the world, so she felt like, it was important for you to comment quickly on what your thoughts are about what's going on in Russia right now and Ukraine.
Again, I think that this is a manifestation of globalization. What happens in one part of the world is bound to have a ripple effect across the globe. Okay?
That's right.
But we as Africans need to understand something very important. All countries pursue other nations, whether it be in a way of conflict or peaceful way, for one reason and one reason alone, to pursue their own national interests. So the lessons we ought to learn about what is happening in between NATO and Russia vis-a-vis Ukraine is we need to understand, we Africans need to understand what are our interests and how can we pursue and protect them. I mean, one never wants to see the kind of suffering that is happening as a result of war, okay? You know, but the common issue here, the common theme here is we are all of one common humanity. In the past, people saw those kinds of conflicts as only happening in uncivilized, backwards countries like Africa, and like the countries in Africa, okay? But the lesson to be learned is this all is a manifestation of our common humanity. My heart bleeds for the people of Ukraine that are suffering, okay? But as we peel away the layers of the onion, we begin to see it's more than the interest of the people of Ukraine, it's the interest of all of the players involved. And we as Africans need to begin to look at it and learn from those particular lessons. What do we need to do to pursue our own interests? I hope I answered her question.
Absolutely. I know that's a handful, and we can go on and on and on. Like I mentioned before, there's a little bit of time constraint here. So thank you so much for being here and just taking your time to talk to us. You know that this is just the beginning of the series. So we hope that one day you come back again to not only talk to us, but let us know that you are the president, you know, of the great Republic of Liberia. We wish you well and we wish you luck. So
thank you very much. I'm willing. It will happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we transition on to bring in folks that are live, you know, waiting to ask you questions, I want to give you this opportunity, just a couple minutes, please. If you can address your folks, number one, folks from Liberia in the diaspora and folks back home that are watching you right now, please.
I just want to say to the folks first in the diaspora, remember, no matter where you go on this globe, you are Liberian. Like we used to say in Liberia when I was growing up, your navel string is buried in Liberia. Don't forget Liberia. Don't give up on Liberia. Pray for Liberia, help Liberia, and when you get the opportunity, come back to Liberia and make your contribution. For the folks in Liberia, I say to them, like I said earlier, don't forget you have power. This time around, these elections come in October of 2023. Use your power wisely. Look at the long term. Look at your future. As opposed to that bag of rice that a candidate may give you, it's going to finish. Look at your future, especially the young people. It's your time. It's your time to lead. So take power. Take your power and use it wisely. That's my message to them.
Very well said. Well, Ambassador, we are so proud. And, you know, I hope that when you become president, we're not going to have these technical challenges. I know the video is a little rough there, but that's a start. At least we can get to hear you and talk to you. So we're excited to make sure that you become president, if you will, that maybe you can fix some of those issues such as technology, because we know that as much as we love to have you as clear as we can, but we still know that Africa has a lot of challenges when it comes to technology. And we hope for the best for the future. And we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to introduce some of the folks that can ask you questions real quickly before we transition on. So stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining us right now, you're watching us live, presenting all candidates running for the presidential parts of leadership in the parts of Africa. So we're excited for this opportunity. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. welcome back. I want to remind everybody, if you're joining us right now, like if you want to get in touch with us, please call that number right there, 1-866-646-7060, and we'll be able to return your call, promptly. And if you have questions, please call us, and we can take your number, your message, and then we can make sure that we present you in the way that we need to represent you. I know that most of you have questions about all these folks that are running for presidency in different parts of Africa. Right now, we're talking about Liberia before we transition on. So let me go ahead and bring in Ambassador Nathaniel here real fast. Ambassador, did you miss anything? I know that there's a lot of stuff that we need to unpack, but during break, did you go back and say, oh, wait a minute, I didn't talk about this? Is there anything that you think you missed while you were on break?
Well, I tried to cover as much as I could. I'm okay. I think I'm all right.
Absolutely.
As we talk some more, I'll be able to address those whatever issues I may have missed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're gonna go on and invite Dr. Francis, who is calling in from California right now. Dr. Francis, welcome, and we thank you for your time, sir. What would be your question for His Excellency here? That's what I want to listen to.
Thank you so very much, Your Excellency. Thank you for the opportunity. I have 3 questions, so we'll take them one at a time, and each one of them takes off of some of the comments you've already made. The first one, African diaspora. So as you alluded to earlier, African diaspora remittances to Sub-Sahara for 2021, these are my figures now, was $45 billion. And specifically for Liberia, the figure I have is in 2018, $433 million. So these remittances have significant positive economic effects in their destination countries. You agree to that? Now, these
Absolutely.
Africans already get their passports renewed by your nation's diplomatic representatives. So these embassies should be able to handle issuing of voting clearances and things of that nature. So how can you, as president, facilitate a plan to allow diaspora Africans to fully participate in your nation's elections?
Well, this is an issue that I have thought about a lot because, as I said, as far as I'm concerned, the diaspora is an integral part of the nation, the nation of its origin. In Liberia, you mentioned the number. The average 10-year average has been like $500 million, and that has made a significant difference from an economic perspective. We do need to find a way to have these people participate fully in Liberia in the electoral process. And as far as I understand, as I know right now, many of the issues are more technical than anything else. We are having some challenges on the legislative side about the citizenship issue and dual citizenship and all of that. Very close to overcoming that. But if I, God willing, I am successful in my bid, I intend to make that a priority so that the Liberians in the Liberian diaspora will have the opportunity to participate in the electoral process in Liberia. As I said, I think much of the issue are more technical, the technical innovations that need to be done. The embassies are there, and they can be used. The embassies and consulates across the world can be used as the point for which these nationals can go to exercise their God-given right. So it's a high priority, and I believe that it's very, very important.
Thank you. So my next question has to do with your economics. So according to your followers, those will be your nation's electorate, previous leaders have not fared well in managing your economy. So when I consider the likes of presidents of Rwanda and Ghana, the stellar work they've done, I'm convinced that Africans can manage their economy. So please discuss your economic plan for your country, and please highlight poverty reduction, education, public health, and unemployment.
Thank you. The important thing that we must remember here is to create sustainable economic growth and expansion. you must have several things that are in place. Number one, you must have good infrastructure. You must have an good education system. And of course, you must have good healthcare, okay? You must create an area, a system where there is a certain amount of self-reliance. At this point in time, Liberia, we are too dependent on foreign direct investment, okay? And that is a whole nother challenge, okay? We must find a way to become self-sufficient and look at areas that are renewable. Much of the economy in Liberia right now is focused on extractive resources, mining gold, mining diamond, iron ore, etc. Those resources are exhaustible. They will finish. We need to begin to focus on renewable resources. What are the two most important renewable resources, in my own opinion? Agriculture and human beings. Okay, we must find a way to expand our agriculture production. Okay, the Liberian government budget right now, less than 2% of the budget is dedicated to agriculture. That doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, we need to focus on agriculture. We need to focus on building a working class of Liberians. So when we go to the foreign direct investment side, looking for investors, we need to understand that finding global investors is a very, very competitive business. Just as we want for investors to come and invest in Liberia, so does Ghana, so does Guinea, so does Nigeria, so does Vietnam. Across the globe, there's a competition for that. Now, if you took Liberia here and Rwanda here as investment opportunities, where do you think an investor will go to? He will go to where the climate is attractive. Attractive in what way? Number one, it's stable, politically stable. Number two, it has a decent workforce that can be used, well-trained workforce. It has infrastructure. It has a healthcare delivery system for employees. It has an educational system that will be able to provide a training and education to its employees and what have you. So we need to focus first internally. How can we fix all of these issues? How can we create an environment that will make it attractive to invite investors? It's not going to be easy to do, okay? But we do need to sort of refocus the whole thing. First, find areas that we can depend on ourselves. Why is it that we import rice, our staple? Liberians eat rice 3 times a day, okay? At this point in time, we should be growing enough rice so that we don't have to import it. Should something happen, like what's happening right now with this global upset with the supply chain situation, and we have a shortage of rice, we could have civil disturbances. So we do need to relook at how we create an environment that will be attractive for ourselves to invest, and at the same time, by empowering the private sector, and at the same time, attractive for foreign investors to come in. Okay, but those areas you name are absolutely critical, and they all need to be done, repaired and fixed in Liberia.
Thank you so much. So I have one last question, and this area will cover traveling in Africa. You alluded to the ECOWAS earlier. So an American gets a visa on arrival in Botswana, for instance, and Ivory Coast, Lesotho, Malawi, Rwanda, and you can name a few others. And Kenya and Nigeria, since 2019, they will issue visa on arrival to Africans. Now, there is a perception that many African governments are doing their best to keep other Africans out of their countries. Now, you wonder, what about tourism? Foreign direct investments you mentioned earlier, that these can result from, please discuss your plans to remedy this challenge.
I think one of the problems is, countries like Liberia because of the absence of viable, sustained institutions, become vulnerable. And that vulnerability leads to have all kinds of undesirables come into Liberia to operate and do things that are not in the best interest of Liberia. So thus the reticence to, as a matter of fact, create a lax or relaxed or an open immigration arrangement. However, once we strengthen our institutions, I don't see any reason why we cannot, as a matter of fact, offer visas upon arrival. Liberia is an incredible tourist opportunity. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most beautiful countries from a natural beauty perspective on the West Coast. Okay, we do need to find a way to do that. But before we do that, we must ensure that we have systems in place that will keep out undesirables. You know, there's an old adage, it says, in the midst of chaos, there's opportunity. And many times the undesirables of the world find places like Liberia where our institutions are not reliable and we don't have a good, solid system. They come in there and they exploit it. So we do need to be very, very careful with that. That's something that we need to keep at the forefront of our minds. But once we can get around that, I do believe that we should have a situation, especially with other Africans coming to Liberia, where they can come and go as they please.
Thank you, Ambassador Barnes. That concludes the questions I have for you for today. And I'm sure you will be other officials here questioning you on some of these areas. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Dr. Francis. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. Ambassador, you know, it's a pleasure having you here. And if time allows, I can allow maybe just one more question real quickly from our brother Izozo, all the way from California as well. Brother Izozo, if you can get this opportunity as well to ask one last question to, you know, our ambassador here running for presidency in Liberia, you know, what would be your question regarding to any topic that you choose?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, first of all, Davis, for giving us this platform. This is the first time in our history having different African candidates coming together. And I hope we can do this. So, Davis, your ATV, for me, is my CNN.
All right, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Ambassador Barnes, thank you for giving us this time. When I found the African Diaspora Foundation, I found it just for one main reason. Women. Our women are crying, suffering. Their children are being killed. We don't make the guns that they used to kill themselves. The guns come from somewhere. My question to you is, English, French, mathematics, religion, etc. were made a mandatory subject to us in Africa. If you become president, will you consider making a peace education a mandatory subject in Liberia and in Africa?
That is an excellent question. Thank you. I would go further. I would go more than just teaching peace in the educational system. We need to embrace and inculcate peace as a part of our cultural and social existence. Liberia had a pretty nasty civil war, brothers killing brothers, you know. And up until today, people are still trying to figure out why. What caused this? Okay. I think one of the reasons were we, from the very get-go, from our founding in Liberia, we were established and have lived all of these generations in denial. There are certain things that were happening, certain dynamics that were going on, whether cultural, social, or political, that we choose to sweep under the rug and not pay attention to. And at some point in time, the chickens came home to roost. And we had this explosion, okay? And it was quite catastrophic, okay? Africa, historically, throughout our humanity, has not been known to be an area of war and conflict. I mean, in ancient Africa, with empires conquering one empire, yes, and all of that. Okay, but in recent history, much of the most devastating global conflicts were not on the African continent. And that, in my humble opinion, is a manifestation of the African cultural mentality of peace and stability. The whole idea that we believe in our family. Look, there's a very interesting concept in Africa that I find most interesting. At least I know for a fact in Liberia, there are no retirement and nursing homes. No, none. There are none in Liberia. Why? Because the intrinsic culture is we embrace our family, and grandparents are seen as a source of wisdom, experience, knowledge, and nurturing for our young people. We've held our women in esteem. Okay, you mentioned the issue of women, Easy. Women in Africa, whether we want to admit it or not, are the backbone of our society. We cannot run away from that. We cannot. Now, we may have been in denial recently because of all of the exogenous influences that we've had, Western influences, and this machismo thing. But let's not kid ourselves. Africa is a country of peace, basically. I'm not going to go into all the issues about how colonialization and all these things sort of changed us in a certain way, but we basically are a peaceful people. Okay, so the short answer to your question is, I will encourage teaching peace, love, and acceptance, okay, in our school system. But more importantly, it should be a cultural practice. One of the things we need to do in Liberia particularly is to face facts. Now, there's a distinct difference between truth and facts. Your truth and my truth may be different. 1 + 1 is an arithmetical fact. No matter where you go in this globe, it's the same. So we need to address facts. We have lived in denial. We have continued for generations to elect politicians who don't know what they are doing, who don't have the needs and desires of the people in their heart. We need to come to grips with that and change it and work towards. Once we do that, the peace will come, and the peace will be sustained and last forever. I hope I addressed your question.
Yes, you did. And I have 2 more questions, but I'm going to lump them because of interest of time into one question. Since you're going to support peace education in Liberia, and probably you're going to advocate for peace education across the continent, will you support a 1% of the military budget in Liberia to go to peace education?
Absolutely.
Two. Mm-hmm. Most politicians, they come in, they promise and promise and promise, and when they're in the office, they turn the other way. If you become president of Liberia, within a year, you fail to deliver what you promised to deliver, will you resign from office?
Oh, okay. Good question. Let me try to address your first question first, Easy, on the issue of the military budget. Now, this is my own opinion. My humble opinion is Liberia's threat, okay, from within is poverty, it's the issue of disease, it's ignorance. It is not a military or one that is physical, okay? We do not have, in my opinion, even any external threat. I don't think Guinea is about to invade Liberia, neither is Ivory Coast or any country on the continent, okay? So the role of a military or an army, in my mind, while it may be important, should not be overemphasized, okay? If we do have a military, we have a very small military army in Liberia, something like 2,000 or 3,000 a man strong army. And they generally use internal border patrol and that sort of thing. I'd like to see them we establish something that's similar to a Army Corps of Engineers, where we can incorporate the military in doing infrastructure and those other things, because there's no real external military threat to Liberia. So to say we will reduce and take 1% of the budget or 0.5% of the budget towards a peace process in Liberia, that should not be a problem. On the matter of my ability to deliver to Liberia, I said before, I don't see myself as a politician. Politics is a tool of a leader. I see myself as a leader. I have a plan to deliver to the Liberian people. But the Liberian people, and this goes to all of Africa, need to understand that progress and prosperity in any African country is not dependent on one person. The role a leader plays, an effective leader plays, is to lead by example, motivate, and inspire people, and make hard decisions. In other words, when someone cheats or someone steals or someone does something wrong, do not be afraid to let the law take its course. You cannot practice any kind of impunity whatsoever. So I am of the opinion that given the opportunity to serve Liberia, I will deliver for Liberia. If the Liberian people feel that I have not delivered, it will be within their power to say, hey, we are unhappy with you. And trust me, the one thing I will do, I will always have an open door, because at the end of the day, unlike many politicians in Liberia and in Africa, I realize that I am an employee of the people. I am not their boss. I am not their ruler. I am their humble employee. I think that there are two important characteristics that any leader in Liberia must embrace, and in Africa, as a matter of fact, to be effective as a leader. Number one, you must first exercise humility. You cannot say you want to lead a people if you are not first and foremost prepared to submit and humble yourself before the Almighty God, however you perceive him to be, first and foremost. And secondly, you must humble yourself to the people, the very people that you are going to lead. So humility is very, very important, first thing. The second thing that's very important is courage. To be able to change Liberia, to be able to change Africa, we need leadership that is courageous, to have the courage to make very, very difficult decisions, and the tenacity to stick with it and see it to its conclusion. There have been too many instances where a leader gets in there and he makes a decision and he's bombarded by all of these different factors, exogenous and internal issues. Well, you can't do it this way because of whatever. And he or she tends to step away and not do the right thing. You must have the courage to make difficult, tough decisions that require sacrifice. And you must be prepared to be the fights to make those sacrifices and lead by example. So make those decisions, the courage to make them, stand by it, and see it to its successful conclusion. Humbleness, humility, and courage. African leaders, Liberian leaders must embrace those. There are lots of other qualities that you must have. Honesty, integrity, intellect, all those things are important. But in my humble opinion, to move Liberia, to move Africa to the level we want it to be, where it should be, requires leaders that have humility and leaders that have courage.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. This ends my question for you. But it looks like you're going to support peace education. You're going to support women. You will support children,
youth
to grow. So thank you. Hope to see you.
All right. Thank you, Brother Izzy. Thank you so much for all those questions. I almost knew Brother Izzy was going to mention peace, because peace is very important to him, and he talks about it every day, and rightfully so. So thank you so much, Ambassador. We want to just take our time to appreciate you on behalf of the ADF as well as Channel ATV. We want to thank you for the time and making sure that you appear. We know the challenges of technical stuff, back on the continent is difficult, but now you're clear. So I'm glad that the ending is sweet and smooth. We can see you much better now. So what are your last words in closing? I know that you're going to stick around to join other candidates real quickly. Just within 30 seconds, I want to give you this opportunity. What are your last words before we give you a break until you join other candidates as well?
I want to address the people of Liberia. I want to address the people of Africa. I want to address the diaspora. There is a concept I call the 3 cardinal questions. In order to move ahead, we need to ask ourselves 3 cardinal questions. Question number 1, what do we want? If we don't know what we want, we are not going to get it. Question number 2, what must we do to get what we want? And question number 3, cardinal question number 3, are we willing and prepared to do what we must do to get what we want? Please remember the 3 cardinal questions. God bless you. God bless Africa.
All right, welcome back to the virtual presentation brought to you by the ADF, the African Diaspora Foundation, in collaboration with Channel ATV, live here in Seattle, Washington, enjoying the presentation by different candidates running for office in the different countries of Africa. So we are transitioning on to part 2, and we're going to go all the way to the great country of Nigeria. We are talking to our brother Victor, who is running for office in the great country of Nigeria. So, Your Excellency, Victor, welcome to the program, and it's good to see you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
What time is it in Nigeria now?
Well, it's about 7:52 p.m. now.
Oh, wonderful. So it's not too late for you. So,
well,
yeah, I was about to feel bad. I said, we kept but it's good to see you, jumping right into the game. Please, for the folks that are watching you right now, I know who you are. We know who you are because we've had interaction, and I'll talk about that. The fact that you are, in the same industry as I am, it's good to see people representing us from the media industry stepping up into the highest level of leadership in the country. So, for folks that are watching you for the first time right now, please take a few minutes to introduce yourself to the folks so they can know who you are and a little bit of your history. Thank you, sir.
Well, I'm Victor OKHAI, and I'm the first of 10 children.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes, so it's a big family. Yes, and I'm from somewhere in the south. My mother is from the southeast of Nigeria. I grew up in the northern part of Nigeria. Went to school in the main there, and my family and I now live in the southwest. So basically, you can say that I have a leg in every part of Nigeria.
Right.
I'm a filmmaker. And apart from being a filmmaker, I also have a background in digital marketing as well, advertising, public relations. And I just rounded up a doctorate program in leadership. I'm passionate about my country, and I'm one of those who do not think that we should just criticize and say what is wrong, but actually be active take an active part in trying to change the country. The reason I decided to do the doctoral program in leadership is, for me, that's a practical step to be able to find out for myself, if you like, say, research into leadership styles and see also what the problem has been, and then what it is. Backed with knowledge now, what it is that I can do to make a difference in my country.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, just talk to me here for a little bit. If I can just dial back, and you and I can speak on the same level when it comes to technology and filming and things like that. Before we dive into politics, I want to ask you, Hollywood plays a big role in the United States. You've been in the United States so many times. You've visited here. You've traveled. You've seen how things are done here, and you're trying to push Nigeria to the next level. Yes, Nigeria is doing well compared to the rest of the countries in Africa. If you became president, how do you envision yourself to revamp, Nollywood to become one of the leading, not only an aspect in Africa, on the African platform, but also be a competitor on that highest level to where we can give ourselves an opportunity to bring or generate income into Nigeria?
Okay. So what I didn't mention is also the fact that I'm the national president of the Directors Guild of Nigeria.
That's right.
And so, you see, time was when, the industry was looked upon like something for people who not very serious people who didn't have anything, or who probably had cotton wool between their ears and not brains.
Right.
But all that has changed. And quite frankly, in the not very distant past, the economy was rebased, and GDP, we found out that the contribution of Nollywood actually moved Nigeria to have the highest GDP on the continent. Now, that's no mean feat. We have, as an industry, we have done quite a lot, and that has amazed not just fellow Africans and Nigerians, but even people from across the world. Now, as well as I do, the nature of innovation and disruption. You never see it coming. Kodak never saw it coming. RIM, owners of BlackBerry, never saw it coming. Nokia never saw it coming. When we started Nollywood, because I'm a pioneer, I would say, right from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things that sustained the industry, and that's what I want to share here, and then now take it on to answer your question properly. When we started, one of the things that helped us at the time is a concept in African philosophy called ontological solidarity.
Right.
Now, what it simply means is this. As well as I do, that in our communities, especially in those days, even up to recent times, it's not always about money. You want to build a house, for instance, or you want to till your farm and all that. You get the community, everyone comes. The only thing you're expected to do is just probably feed them, and all that. And everyone will come as one, till your farm, okay? And then when it's my turn, we do the same. Same with when we're building houses. So it's not about money. It's about synergy. You understand? And that, that power of synergy where 1 + 1 can equal to 100, And this concept was brought into Nollywood in the early days. It wasn't about money. And another thing was that we had challenges economically. And so, with the economy rather. And so, we didn't really have money to buy equipment, even training, in film and all that had, gone down considerably. But the one thing we had is that African, that spirit that we have, that can-do spirit of
Ubuntu.
Nigerians.
Yeah, the spirit of Ubuntu.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which is the concept I described earlier on of coming together and, believing and working as one, supporting each other. And so what we did at the time was, one, we had the audacity of belief that we could do this. We had stories to tell, and it didn't matter how we did it. And so we embraced what we could at the time, which was digital technology at its infancy. And then this technology, I remember what I said earlier on, the nature of disruption and innovation is you never see it coming. Usually it will look like nothing until it overtakes you, and then suddenly you look back and you find that, and so that's what we did at the time. We took our stories in that raw form, and I'll tell you how that translates into leadership as well. Now, we took that at that raw stage. All we were interested in at that time was tell our stories with what we have. And we started with our immediate community, and so we embraced what we had. We started telling the stories. Now, if you do what you do in your immediate community and you continue and you persist, very soon you get better. And as you do what you do, the world soon starts paying attention. Initially, they may look at you with disdain. They may not take you seriously. And let me draw references now. when China started, I'll tell you something that was popular in Nigeria at the time. You know, every inferior good was at the time made in China. You understand? We never took Chinese products seriously. But you know what? The Chinese took themselves seriously. That was what was most important. And then again, like in the nature of disruption and innovation, in that state, in the raw state, like nothing, they persisted and they continued. And you know that today, China is a manufacturer to the rest of the world. You know, iPhones are made in China. Many big manufacturers go to China, you know, to, you know,
but resources are from Africa for the most part. Like the cell phone, you know, comes from Congo. We know that, you know. So, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All the raw materials come from there. We know that. Tantalum and all the rest of them. So,
correct.
But the point I'm making is that, you know, you start with what you have, where you are, believe in what you're doing, and if you persist to get better at it, and after a while, the world has no choice but to take notice of what you're doing, like they did with Nollywood. As a matter of fact, we embraced digital technology before everyone else. Film purists who embraced Kodak and Fuji and all the big, you know, and all that, look down at us and what we're doing. But today, they have all come to join us. But, you know, and the thing is, and I'll tell you the advantages has brought to us. We have been able to provide employment for our people. Never mind the quality. There are two levels, okay? Just like you have independent productions in the US that you may never see elsewhere. But the advantage of what Nollywood has done for the Nigerian economy is that, like subsistence farming, we have subsistence filmmaking in a location, which is exactly where I'm now calling from, a town called Asaba. Now, there, I mean, they churn out movies like, and that's why we're number 2, you know, globally in terms of production of films. But the one thing it does is that it has provided jobs for millions of young people. The value chain of production itself has over 200 professionals along the
jobs.
line. Jobs that are provided, you know. And so this singular industry has been able to provide jobs for millions of people who would have gone into crime, who would have been jobless, who would have been anything else. Now, that's the industry that we run, and that's the industry that I'm, you know, like at the head of in my capacity, the Directors Guild of Nigeria. And that can also translate into leadership. And I can tell you, who is a director after all? You understand? If you look at what's filmmaking, if you look at the composition of filmmaking, it's like running a country. First of all, you start with a vision, okay? I want to make a movie. About what? So you see it first in your mind.
It's a vision,
your mind's eye. You visualize it, then put it down on paper. You write the vision, literally, I mean, so to say, okay? And that's your script, okay? And when you write that script, you know, you hire the very best to actualize that. And as a director, you know, that I am, my job is to get all of these elements, the human elements, the capital, the money that we need, and every other element, you know, to be able to tell that story and deliver it and get, first of all, I have to be able to sell that vision successfully in order to be able to produce a successful movie. That is leadership, okay? And in actualizing this vision, and in putting together, in coordinating this team and managing the sources, which are mostly not usually enough, I'm able to deliver on that project. This is, you see project management along the line, you see human resource management along the line, you see resource management along the line, but above all, we're able to deliver, and we do that, you know, and we get a buy-in of an audience that is driven to that theater, and they're satisfied with what we have been able to do. Delivering that vision, envisioning and delivering on that vision is what filmmakers are all about. If there's not, if that is not leadership, okay, I don't know what else is. Running a country is no different. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
running, you know, so that's basically what it is: envisioning, assembling a team, and delivering on the vision effectively. Okay,
and create jobs
that's
in the
what I do on a daily basis, and that's what we're all about.
as we transition on, we're going to bring in Sister Sylvia, all the way from California. Sister Sylvia, how are you doing, madam?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Like, just enjoying the talk. I mean, the first candidate was dynamic. Now we have a new one, and I'm just itching to hear, what he has to say about what he's going to do when he gets into office, as well as fielding some questions that have been sent in to us.
Okay.
So, if you permit me, I have. Are we going to go into second phase with Victor before Q&A?
Absolutely. I'll bring him right back. I was just giving him a chance to drink some water. You saw how passionate he was when he was talking about the
right. We're going to let him finish just a little bit. But just to the viewers out there, Victor, there you are. All right, now look at that. I love the scarf. I mean, what's with this thing?
Well, this is brand Victor. This is,
that's brand Victor. You need to send me one so I can start supporting your brand. Thank you. To the viewers out there, if you're just joining us, this is history in the making for now. We have 3 prospective presidential candidates from Africa, from 3 different countries. Liberia has just gone through. We're now with Mr. Victor OKHAI, or should I say His Excellency Victor OKHAI, who is from Nigeria. And then, of course, we have South Africa, but I will embellish about him when his turn comes up. I'll just tell you his name is KK for short. Nonetheless, we're so delighted to have each and every one of you tune in, because this is something that has never been done before. And we're giving each candidate the opportunity to talk about themselves and why they think, or why they feel, not think is the wrong word, why they feel they should be the next president for their respective countries. Actually, I would like to borrow a question from Mr. Izozo. And the reason I want to borrow that question from Mr. Izozo is because in Nigeria, his country where he's from, we have major, dramatic, grotesque issues that have to do with bombing and killing our children in schools. Boko Haram. I believe I read something yesterday, or I saw a video, some videos where there was some bombing at a school. Mr. OKHAI, when you become president, what is your plan for the peace process for Nigeria? When Nigeria is peaceful, this is one of our biggest countries in Africa. She's a giant on her own. She leads. But is she leading the right way? We need to bring Nigeria back online so that she can be the beacon, the phoenix that she is. But with wars that are going on right now, Muslims killing Christians and whoever else is killing the other, I don't want to misquote anything, but I'm saying what I read or what I heard on the video yesterday. It's very painful as a mother. It's very, very painful as a grandmother to see I think there were like 4, 5, 6-year-old babies that, were running for their lives. And they showed some of them that even were bombed and killed. And I mean, people are just passing by because everybody's running for their life. As the incoming president, Mr. OKHAI, what is your plan for peace? Because when Nigeria is peaceful, I think we can take a page out of Nigeria's peace and transition it to other African countries that may be like DRC that go through the same. Victor?
Thank you very much for that question, Sylvia. Usually, when you find situations such as what is happening in Nigeria today, what is it that causes war after all? A lack of peace. The Nigerian situation is, I wouldn't say it's peculiar, but it's like what you find in many other African countries. Let me start from the continent. Injustice, inequity, and a lack of patience or dialogue is largely responsible for the problems that we have. And I dare add the word perceived, because sometimes it could be real, sometimes it could be perceived. But even where there are perceptions, it must be managed and managed effectively, because after all, perception may be the only reality that we have, and that's what will act, that will cause us to act or react. Now, Nigeria is a very peculiar country. We have well over 200 or 300 and something different ethnic groups. We would like to describe it as a geographical contraption in the sense that, you know, during the Berlin conference, they merged different nationalities into one. But that's not the problem, because after all, the United States of America is an amalgam of several nationalities, and yet they're stronger. And I believe that we're stronger together as a people, because we have, you know, a population of well over 200 million without custom barriers, without any immigration barriers. We ought to be one of the most prosperous nations in the world. So it is a big advantage for us, in spite of our diversities, which I consider a strength, because our diversity is not only in our people, but even in terms of, you know, the kind of things that you can get, mineral resources from different areas, you get agricultural resources from different areas. All of this together should help to strengthen us. But the biggest problem is we've had leadership that is not focused on building. There's what we call divide and rule, which means, what that simply means is you have leaders who think that as long as you can create divisions among people, you can sustain yourself in power. Now, that is very wrong. And another problem we've always had is a situation where you have sectional leaders. Now, permit me, what I'm trying to do here is a bit of diagnosis before I tell you what it is, because it's only in understanding the problems that you can actually, you know, deal with what the issues are. Now, we find politicians who come and they're either religious champions or they're ethnic champions. They come and then they're just, you know, it's like, now I've come to represent a section. And that has been the biggest problem. No true national leaders, because every leader that has come has probably not had the kind of background that I have, and I'm going to explain that in a moment. Another thing that is also important is, which means that robs them of an opportunity to understand and see from the various perspectives and be able to, hear and understand where everyone is coming from and act as someone in the middle who can bring everyone together. Another thing is this: what causes war in most countries is really pride. Every war would usually end with dialogue, no matter how many guns and bombs that you expend and use and all the killings, it would usually end on a dialogue table, mostly. So I would say, why don't we embrace dialogue from the beginning? The problem is pride. What is happening between Ukraine and Russia today? These are things that could have been settled on a dialogue, on a dialogue table. But pride, the pride of the individuals concerned, won't let them do that. And so the problem that you see in Nigeria today, with the Muslims and the various killings and all the things that are done, we have Biafra, there's IPOB, there's Nnamdi who is leading a group that wants to be a separatist group from Nigeria and all that. He's in jail right now. We have those from the north, Boko Haram and the rest of them. No one says no to a president or to a leader, whether secretly or whatever. You can call these people as a leader. I would invite them. You may not do it openly, and guarantee their safety, because that is very, very important. Mm-hmm. Invite them over and have a talk. What is the problem? Because you see, every single life matters until leaders begin to realize that there is no life, every life matters.
All right. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We are having a great conversation with all the candidates coming from different parts of Africa. And right now we're going to transition on to the next country, which is the great country of South Africa. I'm excited to bring in the next candidate here, and you're great to meet him. Very, very distinguished gentleman. We're excited to have him in the studio, and his name is KK. And I'll explain to you why they call him KK, because most of us, who are come from the Southern Hemisphere, when you hear the name KK, Africa, you only think of Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda, the greatest ever. So this man has an opportunity to leave his legacy as well. Let's welcome His Excellency Hendrick Peter KEKANA from South Africa. How are you doing, sir?
How are you doing, sir? Thank you very much. Good evening from South Africa. Good evening to the listeners. It's just about 9:30 in the evening here in South Africa. And good evening to the viewers and the panel as well. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Welcome to the broadcast. I love the flag. You live and breathe South Africa, and we're excited to learn a little bit about your journey. And we're also excited for the fact that you also get to meet other presidential candidates from different parts of Africa. So I think that's a blessing. So you have a great team that's supporting you in the background as well, making sure that they're taking notes. You know, before we proceed and move forward, we did our research and we had to find a little bit of information about you, and you know, so that we can get to know you a little bit, you know, because we know that time is limited. But before we transition on, I'm going to play a video that actually features who you are and a little bit about your story. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Thank you so much. My name is Hendrick Peter Makute KEKANA. I am a direct descendant of the Ndebele royal family of Mokopane in South Africa. I will be standing for the presidency of the Republic of South Africa in 2024. The South African economy is in a bad state. From about 2018, almost every quarter of the year, we've had a decline in growth in South Africa. In fact, the South African economy was in recession for 3 quarters before the coronavirus situation started in about March of 2020. And we have never recovered since then. There are 61 million South Africans in this country, and 41 million of those are adult South Africans aged 18 and higher, and the oldest citizen in the country. 21 million of the 41 million are currently unemployed, and the situation is getting worse. Now, the current South African landscape is in a dire situation. Poverty is going higher, inequality is getting worse, unemployment, as the World Bank alluded to recently, is at its highest ever since the advent of South Africa and since the independence in 1994. We have been very lucky to have been exposed to liberation icons such as the late Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, the late Julius Nyerere, Jomo Kenyatta, and many other names. But my biggest liberation icon is a lady by the name of Winnie Mandela. Because when all the chips were down in the 80s and part of the early 90s, when all the icons and other people had passed on and some were in jail, such as Nelson Mandela sitting on Robben Island, our only motivation and only hope came from Winnie Mandela. She kept us alive. She kept our hopes alive as the youth of our time. And we of the opinion that Winnie Mandela has not been celebrated enough in the world and in South Africa. Because as we call her the mother of the nation, we believe that if it was not because of her, we could have all given up. All the other leaders were either in jail or in exile out of the country. Winnie Mandela stood up for all of us. She sacrificed her life. She sacrificed the life of her own children. She was detained, she was arrested, she was banished, she was moved out of her house. And we thank the international community at the time for having kept the hopes alive together with her for the end of apartheid. Nelson Mandela said to all of us around the world and in Africa and South Africa to say, forgiveness does not make you weak. It sets you free. Do not imprison yourself forever.
Thank you for joining us. Let's now welcome, His Excellency Hendrick Peter KEKANA back into the studio. Welcome back, sir. Thank you for that background of who you are and some of the values that you consider to be important in your life. First of all, we know who you are. If you can just take a couple minutes just to introduce yourself to some of the folks that are watching from different parts of Africa, please, within like a minute or so, let us know a little bit about your background, even though you've shared a little bit of your story there. But for the folks that are tuning in right now, who are you? Who is KK? Who's Victor? Who's Hendrick Peter KEKANA, at this moment?
Yeah, thank you so much to the African Diaspora Foundation. And thank you to all the organizers and yourself, Mr. David Chira, for inviting us. I'm a founder president of an organization called the Big SA, which stands for the Basic Income Grant for South Africa. And it's an organization that had originally started as a lobby group, but we've decided that we're going to go straight into the political space because we're not getting a hearing from the authorities. And therefore, I'll be standing as the president of South Africa. Our next elections are in 2024, in less than 2 years' time. So there's no time for preparations. Who am I? I am a descendant of a nation called the Ndebeles, which is part of the Zulu nation of South Africa. And I thought perhaps what I should do before we get straight into the interviews is just to give a background in terms of South Africa, because every time when one travels internationally, people ask you about South Africa and Kenya and DRC and Ghana as if it's one country, especially in the United States. So I need to clarify that South Africa is an independent country that is geographically sitting right at the bottom of Africa. And the rest of the continent and the rest of our brothers, sisters, mothers, and fathers on the continent always see South Africa as a beacon of hope. Simply because South Africa is one of the last countries to have found independence with the ending of apartheid in 1994, and also with the first ever one man, one vote elections in 1994. So, South Africa is a very crucial player within Africa as a continent in terms of culture, heritage, tradition, and also the economy. Remember, Mr. Chira, that South Africa is the 25th largest country in the world in terms of population. With just under 61 million people, we are number 25 in the world. We are number 3 in Africa in terms of size of economy. It is the most industrialized economy in Africa. And in terms of the region, the Southern African region, which includes countries such as Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and the rest of our neighbors, South Africa is a key economic player. And therefore, there is no way that South Africa can see itself being isolated from the rest of Africa and not being part of the African continent. So I just wanted to introduce that, to say before we go into different questions and what we're trying to achieve. But
absolutely.
Yeah. So what we're trying to achieve, and myself as the leader and the president of the big South Africa, is that we in a situation at this moment where things are getting from bad to worse. And, we'd like to thank all the stalwarts, the struggle stalwarts, for taking us where we are. But I think it is time, in 2024, it will be 30 years after our independence. And as you know, and you're quite aware that South Africa is not doing very well economically.
Right.
And, we have one of the highest unemployment figures in the world, comparatively speaking.
That's right.
From World Bank figures. I mean, we're sitting with out of the 61 million South Africans above the ages of 18 and much higher, including the older citizen in the country, we're sitting with 21 million of those that are unemployed, which is close to a 50% or just above a 50% proper, if you don't take the United Nations way of counting unemployed people, and you take the physical way of people sitting and looking for job opportunities, we are sitting close to 50%. The biggest issue that we are going to face, both as South Africa and the region, is that we're sitting at more than 60% of the youth, let's say between the ages of 15 up to 25, who are not at college, are not at school, are not at university, and they don't have anything to do, they don't have a job. And we as South Africans, and we need to talk to the diaspora, the African continent as a whole, to say, we're sitting on a time bomb. So all the issues that you see, obviously on TV, that's been flighted with regards to xenophobic attacks, illegal immigrant issues, and all the other issues are bound to happen because we're sitting with young people who are idle, who don't know what to do with themselves. And in that way, it will affect the rest of the continent, and it will obviously spill over into the diaspora. One of the issues that I'd like to mention is also the fact that South Africa, since 1994, we really have to thank the previous struggle stalwarts. And I look up to the late Kenneth Kaunda. May his soul rest in peace. He died last year and was buried in July. But it is such a coincidence that at the funeral of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda in Zambia, in Lusaka, last year, exactly at the same moment, South Africa was burning. And South Africa was on fire with the riots that occurred in July 2021. And it was mainly after former President Mr. Jacob Zuma
yes,
was sentenced to 15 months in prison. So we sitting here and we say we are worried. We are sitting on a time bomb. We need to do something about it. Thank you so much.
Very well said, and I'm glad that you talked about things that are always important to any presidential candidate, beginning with security, healthcare, infrastructure, all that. Because when there's no employment in the country, there's a spillover of all these things that you've mentioned. So, the first 100 days of your presidency, what are the things that you're going to focus on, beginning with the low-hanging fruit? What's the first thing that you're going to focus on as soon as you become president, within the first 100 days?
Yeah. Look, obviously the question of corruption comes first. But I think the mistakes that most of us do as new presidents of countries is that we spend many months and many years focusing on chasing thieves and witches of the past.
Right.
And we forget to deliver to the people of the country. And I'm seeing examples around Africa. I won't mention names. I'm seeing examples even in Southern Africa where new presidents come on board and new administrations and administrators come on board, and all they do is beef up the corruption police and the corruption officers and chase previous people and forget that they still have to provide basic services and services to the people. So I say, for my first 100 days in office, I would like to focus on the first thing is we need to take our people out of poverty. There are 12 million South Africans out of a population of 60 million, give or take. So there are 12 million South Africans, about 20% of the nation, who go to sleep on a daily basis without knowing whether they're going to have a meal on their table or not. So the question of poverty and taking people out of poverty is of utmost importance to myself and my administration and my team. And that is why we're going for a particular way of providing basic groceries and basic foodstuffs and basic issues so that none of us must sleep at night without knowing what our neighbors and women out there are having for the night. So the question of taking people out of poverty, the question of nutrition and food security, for me, is of the utmost importance. But I'd like to focus on 4 basic issues, which we believe, if we tackle those, then we would have won the battle halfway. The first one, obviously, is poverty alleviation. The next one is unemployment. An economy that is not growing will never create employment. And I mean, that's basic economics. If you don't understand that, you don't need to be a leader of any nation. You need to get the economy growing. You need to get the economy excited. You need to instigate and light the fires in the right places so that the economy starts growing. And that way, the economy starts creating jobs much easier. So the first one is poverty. The next one is unemployment. One of the biggest issues that we have in this country is a question of inequality. Remember that in South Africa, every time I travel internationally and I meet people from Europe and the US, and they say, "Oh, you're from South Africa. You come from a wealthy country."
Correct.
And I say, "Okay, but I'm not wealthy." They say, "Yeah, but you guys are sitting there with minerals, and you have gold, and you have this." So there's an image internationally of South Africa as a rich country.
Absolutely.
But half of the people in South Africa are unemployed and are hungry. So the inequality is a big issue, and it's an issue that you will never resolve in the short term. But we need to create much more wealthier South Africans, especially from Black communities and other disadvantaged communities. Because if you don't, you will forever have the competition between the rich and the poor, which is unhealthy. Because 10% of the wealth 10% of the people in this country own 80% of the wealth of South Africa. So I mean, it can never be as skewed as that. I mean, the World Bank and the IMF gave out a report recently that said that South Africa is the most unequal society in the entire universe.
That's amazingly crazy, to think about it, because sometimes when you read about these things, you can't quite conceptualize, what you just said, but it's the reality that we're living right now.
Yes.
And with that said, you're a very successful businessman, and luckily we are very well traveled, and I'm glad that you said Zambia is your second country, so to speak.
I love the country of Zambia.
Uh-huh.
I love the people of Zambia because of the humility and the humbleness and the down to earth. Every time that I fly into Lusaka, I go there quite often. I have businesses there.
Right.
I have business partners.
Right.
I remember the words of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, my favorite of all times. That's why people call me KK, obviously from the surname,
right?
KEKANA, and also, you know, because one of my biggest icons is Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, the late.
Absolutely.
You know, I've traveled a lot in Africa, a lot of African countries, and I've traveled internationally. And I find that as South Africans, we rush to land in New York, and we want to be in Los Angeles, we want to be in Atlanta, Georgia, and we want to be in London, we want to be in Hong Kong, Paris, and all those kind of places. And yet we don't know our continent. Right. And we don't travel as much as we should in our continent.
Absolutely.
And I say to you know, Africans that are around the world in the diaspora and Africans within Africa, that there was a point in our lives where the Africans kept South Africa alive.
Absolutely.
There was a point, you know, we call Zambia the home of the liberation movement, especially Lusaka. We call Lusaka the head office of the liberation movements of Southern Africa.
Because everything was happening in Lusaka, yes.
In Lusaka, all the liberation movements were meeting in Lusaka, and they were based in Lusaka. I mean, some of our biggest leaders of the past, you know, including some that are still alive, like Thabo Mbeki, the former president of South Africa, and and the greatest of all times for all of us, Oliver Reginald Tambo.
Yes.
I mean, each time that I go into Lusaka, but when I'm from the airport and someone's fetching me from the airport, I will always go and say, can we please pass by OR's house? And I do my short prayer there, and I pass and I know I'm welcome in Zambia. So the message I'm trying to say to my fellow South Africans based wherever in the world, whether you're in London, Hong Kong, New York, or Seattle, or, you know, anywhere in the world, I say, do not forget where we come from.
Absolutely.
Let us never forget where we come from.
Absolutely.
And let us never forget who was holding the torch when things were bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. If you're joining us right now, my name is David Shira. We're having a great conversation with all the leadership, you know, aspiring to become presidents in Africa, you know, starting with Liberia, Nigeria, and South Africa. So I'm excited to bring back, you know, KK, His Excellency KK, back into the studio here. So let's take a listen to what this young lady is saying. And I think, like I mentioned before, we have folks that are watching you from different parts of Africa. And this young lady, you know, happens to be one of the refugees from Sudan. And so she's here to ask a question. So let's take a look.
Hello, my name is Mary Apollo. I'm an immigrant from South Sudan. So my first question is, what are your plans to empower the youth in terms of their goals and inspiration back in your home country and also in the diaspora? Thank you for the question. My second question is, for me, being as an immigrant and as a refugee, what are your plans to help these refugees in your countries, especially that they face a lot of challenges like civil war and genocide? And how can you solve that? Thank you for the question.
There you have it. So you took note of her questions?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what would be your answers to her questions?
The first one with the empowerment of the youth. You know, we, in my organization, we are of the opinion that within a few years from now, perhaps not the next election, but the following one, we're saying we hold elections every 5 years in South Africa. So we're going to have a general election in 2024. and also 5 years later in 2029. And we are of the opinion that the president of the Republic of South Africa in 2029 must be under the age of 50 years. So it's a bold statement. It's a big, ambitious statement. But we are starting a program called Future Presidents.
Future
We will be
Presidents.
launching that. We will be launching that on the 25th of June. And we need support from all over the world to say all the youth who are under the age of 50, way under. So if you are born and your birthday is going to be 49 in 2029, so if you're 40 years old, or whatever age, 7 years from now, so 42 years, we say we'd like everyone, all 61 million South Africans, young people under the age of 42, must prepare themselves and raise their hands, particularly the young ladies, to say, we want to take over the running of our different countries. We want to bring new ideas. We want to get away from the bitterness of wars, of the past, the bitterness of the struggles, the bitterness of imprisonment. And we need the peace that South Africa needs, and the peace that Southern Africa needs, and the peace that Africa needs and the world needs. So only young people can bring us. It's like new trees being bloomed, new flowers being bloomed through the youth. And the idea is that we say boldly, the president of South Africa, of the Republic of South Africa in 2029, must be under the age of 50. So therefore, we're preparing future presidents within our youth movements, and we say, take over, take your place under the sun, and rule the world.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
The first part. The second part is a question of refugees and refugees of war. I find that a lot of people mix certain topics and subjects, and we sometimes mix the issue of xenophobia, and we mix the issues of refugees, and we also talk about issues of people traveling around without passports or without proper documents into one, and therefore I think as South Africa and myself as a president, fortunately, I have traveled the world, and fortunately, I've been to many parts of the world, and I've been to a lot of countries in Africa. And in most places where I have personally arrived, I've been welcomed with both hands. It is surprising that in Africa, I will travel easier and be welcome than other parts of the world. And I don't want to mention other countries because
absolutely,
we know being African and traveling outside Africa is not the easiest all the time.
Correct.
So I say, in my position as the president of South Africa in waiting, I say all refugees must be welcome into our country, particularly refugees coming from Africa and the rest of the continent. We need to take care of them. We need to guide them. We have quite a number, except obviously, when there's questions of youth unemployment, the youth riots and those kind of things, because the quickest thing to do is look around and say, this one is not from my country, and start attacking them. So the important part for us is to make sure that the people are protected. But that is based on a proper rule of law, on proper policing, and not just leave the people to mend for themselves.